G'day. In this video series, we're using Python and Psychopy to create a psychophysics experiment, auditory psychophysics experiment. Now, if this is the first video that you've watched, I'd just like you to be aware that we do have about 7 or 8 videos before this, where we start from scratch, we start from nothing, and we build our Python program with first principles, and we go through incrementally step by step. The program that we currently have has the ability to present a sound stimulus. It has the ability to accept keyboard input from your subject. It also has the ability to control the timing of the different phases of the trials, and it also has the ability to create a save file and to see if we've already made a save file or create a save file from nothing. So we've done a lot up until now, so if you're interested in these sorts of experiments, I suggest you stop the video here, you go back to the start, you come up to speed. Yes, the videos are quite long and I do take my time. However, the reason I take my time is so that we can understand exactly what's going on, and so you can apply this information to your future experiments or your future programming. So go back to the start, bring yourself up to speed. If, however, you've already seen those videos or you're a dead hand at what's going on, you just want to see what we're doing here, hey, welcome on board, we'll get cracking. We left off that last video by saying we can now play our sound stimulus in either of the 2 time windows, 1 or 2, and we use the numpy randint function to do that. What we're going to do now is we're going to start to access the save file that we created for that subject, and we're going to get an idea of the current experimental values, and we're going to use those to change our experiment, dynamically change our experiment on a trial by trial basis. Because remember, sometimes we have to decrease the intensity of our stimulus, other times we have to increase the intensity of our stimulus, or other times we need to keep the stimulus the same. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to periodically, for every trial, we're going to say, hey, what's the current state of the experiment? We need to decrease the sound stimulus, and then we're going to decrease the sound stimulus, do the trial, and then save the current trial into our ongoing and updating experimental file for that subject. So what we have here is remember, we've got this function that will create our experimental file, or it will create one. So it will either create a new one if we haven't already got one, or it will load and return the file. So you see here we've got return file name if we have to make the file. And so here we've got the file name there, so the experimental file function will return the file name. What we want to do is pass that into our main experimental function. So we'll go file name here, and so when we do run this program, this function, we now need to say, okay, file name. So now we have access to the file itself. What we want to do now is we want to now update our initial docstring to say, right, we want to load the experimental file because we want to start to populate the experimental values. So some of the values that we want to populate, okay, won't change for that subject. For instance, the task ID won't change. It may do, but let's just assume it doesn't. The subject's initials won't change, and other things won't change as well. So what we can do is we can read those values in, get the current values, create an updated value, and then set them to be the same. Because what we're going to do is we're going to read the data frame, get access to all the current values, we're going to update, create a whole new set of variables, and then we're going to save these variables, we're going to append those variables to the end of our save file, close that save file down. Then the next trial, we're going to open up that file, read the latest values, okay, put them into the current values, create a set of updated values, okay, do the experiment trial, and then save them again. The reason we're doing that is just in case something happens halfway through the experiment, power failure, or your subject wants to quit, when they hit the Q button, you've got access on your hard drive to the latest data that's available from the experiment. So what we have to do first is we should read in the experimental file. So the way that we do that is we'll say, okay, so the current experiment data equals pd, so pandas.read CSV. So we want to read the CSV file, and that's good because we've saved it as a CSV file. And we want to give that the file name. Remember, that's the file name that we put up here. The file name. Remember, that file name came from the file name that we created when we, well, made the files to start off with. And we had that here, the file name here that was returned from the experimental file function. So we want to read the file. And then what we want to do is there are some things that aren't going to change. So we're going to create a convention now. We're going to say the current values, so the last values that were present in the file, we're going to call current. And the new ones that are based on the latest trial, we're going to call update. So the current, and what are we going to call it? So I've got this already written here because I've written it before. So the current subject ID. So the current subject ID, the updated subject ID is going to be the same as the current subject ID. So we could say updated subject ID equals, now we'll call this a string, and this is going to be the current experimental data. So remember, this is a dictionary. So we want to get access to the last value in that column, which is the initials or the subject ID. So we want index location. So this is how this is pandas, some pandas language now. So index, I for index, location, and we want to index the very last row of that CSV file. The way that we do that in Python is we say, okay, the last position is -1. It's the one from the very end. I location, we don't want the whole lot in this updated sub variable, but rather we just want the value that's in initials. Why do we put initials? Well, let's have a look here. When we created the file, okay, the subject ID was paired with the initials. And so here we can get the very last value of the subject ID in that initials, in the initials column. So that's what we're going to do. So updated subject ID is going to be the current data, right? The last position, last index location in the initials column. So updated, okay, experiment date is going to be, well, that's going to be, let's get today's date, because sometimes you'll do your experiments over 3 or 4 days. So let's just populate the current date. So that's going to be datetime.today, and that's going to be string format, time, and the format that we want is year, month, day. Okay, and then the other thing that we want to do is, I think that's about it really for this. These are the things that aren't going to change. The things that will change, we'll put in the main loop. So the main experimental loop here. So let's update some of the file information. So the first thing that we want to do is updated trial. So we should get the current trial. Okay, so the current trial, current exp trial equals, so this would be an integer, and it's the current exp data, because remember that's the file that we've read in. Current exp data, which is the CSV file, so current exp data. Now we want the index location, we want the last value on the, now I can't remember this, so let's look at what we've called it. We called it trial. Okay, so that's quite easy. So where are we? Trial. So we've got the latest one. We want to then update it to the current, we want to update it. Okay, I got a bit confused in my language there. So update exp trial equals, the current trial plus 1. Okay. Now, we can also update, because remember the other thing that we wanted in our save file is which time window the stimulus was presented in, 1 or 2. So we can do that. So update wind equals, oh, well, it's just going to be wind. That's nice and easy. Okay, what else do we need to do? We'll just leave it at that for the moment, I think. This should work. This should hopefully work. So what we have to do is we get the current file information and we update some of the things. What we do then is we then start to go into our experiment. We play the sound, whether or not it's in time period 1 or time period 2. And then we record the subject's response. And then what we want to do after the subject has made their response is we want to basically create another data frame, but populate it now with the updated data. And then we want to save that to the end of the file. And then we want to close that file down. Saving to the end of a file is a process called appending. We want to append it to the end. So let me just see how we've done it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to say updated output equals pd.dataFrame. Okay, and it's essentially going to be exactly the same as what we have down here. Whoop. Control C. But instead of using the initialized values, we're now going to begin to populate it with the updated values. So the initials is going to be not sub ID, it's going to be updated. What did we call it up here? Updated sub ID. So updated sub ID. The task ID is now going to be updated task ID. I think that's what we called it up here. Let's just scoot up. Updated task ID. Oh, a bit further. Ah, we didn't actually do that yet. So here, this is good. So updated task ID equals string current exp data.ilock. We want the last one. And we want task ID, the task ID value. So that's going to be updated task ID. We'll play that there. Bonk. Date is going to be update to date. Again, we're going up and down a little bit here. Updated, oh, exp date. Okay, updated exp date. Date. Now, time is updated time. Ah, well, we actually want to get the time when the experiment was done. Okay, when the trial was done. So we'll do updated exp time equals date time dot today dot strf time, and this is going to be a string, and it's going to be percent hours, percent minutes, percent seconds. Oops. So updated exp time. So this should be put in here. Control C. Okay, the trial is now going to be updated trial number, isn't it? What do we call it? Update exp, updated exp trial. Frequency is going to be the same. You can change that later on if you want to. The intensity, we're going to change that in the next couple of videos. Obs window, so this is the window that we did. So this is going to be update wind, I believe. Update wind equals the wind, and that's going to give us return the order in the ith position in the order array. Subject response, we'll do that in the next couple of videos. Correct, we're also going to do that in the next couple of videos. Correct count, we're also going to do that in the next couple of videos. So here, great. We now have our data frame, our updated data frame. So now we need to save this to the end of the existing file. So we're going to say with open file name, okay, and we want to append, which means we've got to put an A as F. Okay, updated output to CSV. We want to use F. The mode that we're going to use is to append. Okay, we still don't want the index. Okay, and we don't need to put the header on. Remember, the column titles are called headers. We don't need to put a header every time we append to the end of that file. We just want the values, because the very first time we make that file, the headers will be in there. So header also equals false. Once that's done, we'll then do f.close to clean things up. This should hopefully work, unless I've made some very big mistakes. So let's go to our folder. They're all the ones that we can delete. We are now going to go into our psychometric program. Fingers crossed it worked. We'll put proper values in now for this. Subject initials, we'll put my initials. We're going to do a method of limits, and the current experimental date is 190331. So now we're expecting it to be in 11111, so in the second time window. Hit space. Okay, current exp trial is not defined on line 87. So let's go. Now we start debugging. So line 87, current exp trial dot int. Let's update some into. Okay, dot. It's because I put dot, not equals. That sun's coming through the window, so I'm gonna have to pull the blinds down. So 01010. Okay. So first, second, first, second, first. Okay. That worked. Now you might say to yourself, hey, nothing's working in the background, but hopefully what's happening is our file, when we open it now, should be longer, should contain that data that we've put in there. So let's have a look. Did we do what we said we were going to do? There we go. Our trial is 0. Okay, so our trial is not working. Let's have a look. We should expect to see 01010. Observation windows 01010. So what's happening with this first one? Remember, that's our initialization row. So we can delete that when we want to analyze our data later on. We'll leave it in there just now, just in case. The date, that's correct. The time, 16:41:22. Yeah, so that looks correct. So we've got the correct time that the trial was done. We haven't updated the trial correctly, so we need to do that now. We haven't populated these guys here yet, because that will be in the next couple of videos. All right, so let's close this down and see why our trial isn't updating. So let's go here. Updated EXP trial. So let's say updated EXP trial, updated EXP trial. So that was correct. Current EXP trial equals current EXP data dot iLocation -1. So that should give us the last one. +1. So updated EXP trial. So let's print this out. And let's print this one out as well. We'll put the debug statement at the start. Debug, current trial. Okay. Updated EXP trial will be the next one after that. So 00100, press space to begin. Current trial is 0. Current trial is 0. And we got 1. Okay, so I'm actually not doing that correctly. Okay. Okay, I think what's happening is because we only read it once at the start. So we read the current experimental data once at the start, so it will only ever save that. We're currently inside this part of the loop, so naturally it's not going to update what's going on there. So if we have a look to see how I did it before, did I actually read that in the main loop? If I did, then we're going to have to shift the position of that. So let's have a look. Yes, I did. So we're going to have to shift all that into our main file loop. By shifting, I mean we're just going to pop this. So read that in here. This should work now. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch. We're going to delete that, and we will run this program again. So we've created the file, press space to begin. So second window, first window, second window, second window. So second window, first window, first window, second window, second window. Okay, so it looks like it worked just based on the output. Here we go, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, brilliant. So 1, 0, 0, 1, 1 and 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. Okay, so let's run that again. Let's do 10 trials now and see if we can go from 5 up to 14. So number of trials, we'll put the number of trials to 10. We'll close this down and we'll run this again. We'll also clear the screen. So that's why we've got this first clear output function here. So we'll give it the same file as before. Oh. Space. So you see the list, I'm just going to randomly present stuff here. See the list of window orders is longer as well. Okay, let's see what we've got out. There we go, 0 to 14. Intensity, we haven't updated that yet. We've got the observation window. Should that be what it is? 0, 0, 1, 1, then zeros. 0, 0, because we started at 5, remember? 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, zeros. Brilliant. There we go. We're starting to populate and update our data file for that experiment, for that subject. All right, we're going to leave that video here. It's probably pretty long as it is. In the next video, we're going to start to record and save the subject's responses. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.